Show is going to play next Tuesday and Thursday, and for 4 weeks. That's this show will play 2 o'clock and 5:30. Is that right? In the Can We Talk slot.
Yeah. I guess that's the way it's
This one
going.
with Mary.
Right.
Okay.
And then her gym show will play
We're starting in December.
the 5th week.
Yeah, the December program.
Right.
Yep.
But this will play for 4 weeks, correct?
Yes.
So
Through the
this is
month.
going to play on election day. Right?
I'm not
Tuesday.
sure. I have to edit this stuff first. So yeah,
Well, that's a week away.
I can't promise that.
Well, it would be very good if it can play
I'm
before.
2 shows behind on editing already.
Okay, but we're the only local people producing shows that you said.
Well, I've got other shows I've got to finish up too.
Right, but
I'll be scheduling it.
these.
Okay, let me put it this way. Very little chance it's going to be ready for Tuesday.
Okay, I'm finding a hard time understanding why that would be
Because that's
the mission of public access TV is to
your program will be aired.
Right,
You don't set the date when it runs though, and I have to actually edit it first.
Right.
That's what you need to understand. These take time to edit.
right, but it seems like maybe you're giving priority to what's.
Would you like to record this today or another day? Or would you like to use your camera?
No, I want to record this today.
Okay.
But I'm having understood.
This is the wrong time. We should be. What you haven't understood yet is I have to set the programming.
Right.
Your programming runs, therefore, the obligation is met, and we're setting up a schedule. I can't promise that it's going to run in the next 4 or 5 days, 6 days.
But do you promise that to Great River Arts?
No. I'm still editing stuff from them from 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, no, their stuff is kind of not a priority unless I've got the time.
Well, I'm just hoping that the stuff that we're producing, we're part of the public, that it's taking priority because this is what public access is all about. Not
If you've read the rules and regulations, I have to put things on the air within 6 weeks after producing them. It's never going to take that long, never ever. But you have to give me the time to do my job, and you can't try to.
I didn't see that part in there about 6 weeks.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Well, it's in there.
Okay.
It's like maybe it's not 6 weeks, but nothing says that program needs to be aired within a week of production. I have to produce the program first, and then it goes on the air. You've got your tape. You can put that on your blog immediately.
Right, but that's different than airing on public TV. I'm
Right,
curious, when was the program produced?
Your program is going to be aired on the public access TV
Right, I believe
within 10 days.
Last week on Can We Talk slots, I saw that it was the cello vet choir sestry was playing in that time slot that Can We Talk should be in. When was that show?
I think we should either record this today or have this discussion. We can't do both today.
Well, I was just asking one question, that's all.
And I gave you the answer, and you're not accepting it. I have to edit these first. There is production that must be done. Please understand that.
Right.
And I have discretion to put these on as soon as I can, within a certain amount of time, and I put them on.
Right. I was just hoping you'd be comfortable to tell me when that program aired, when it took place here in the studio.
It won't be, this one won't be airing until maybe next Thursday.
Okay.
And I can't even promise that because we haven't recorded it yet, and I haven't done anything on it.
Okay. This is just a substantial change from when Chris was.
Chris is not here.
No, I realize that. But he didn't have.
Chris didn't follow rules either. And that's why we're getting into this issue with you. We've got to maintain this order of how to allow me to put the show together and then schedule it in as soon as I can. And that's what I do.
Okay, I guess we're ready.
And we're almost ready to go then. And are you going to start?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Oh, bottles on the table.
Sorry.
Kleenexes.
I never know when I may need them, so just
Well-
sit on it.
And eye drops would be best off in your hand, maybe, or there. Okay. And we're starting in 5, 4.
Hello and welcome to Can We Talk. I'm your host, Teresa Scorsett. Robin Hensel is with us as always, and our special guest today is Mary Whelan. Mary has a lot of information about, personal information about things that she's experienced working for Ron Kresha and the Golden Shovel organization. And we want to get to it. We were hoping that this would air before the election because it's very time sensitive, but we're discovering that's highly unlikely. However, the information will remain important either way. So Mary, give us a little background on how your relationship with Ron Kresha developed. How did you meet and where did it go?
I met Ron Kresha when I was first coming into Atomic Learning as an employee, and I believe he was a human resources person at the time or something. And that's kind of how I first met him. And then I didn't really have a whole lot of contact with him while I was working at Atomic Learning. He wasn't my direct supervisor. But then he went and started his own company, Golden Shovel Agency. And in 2010, he pulled me into that company. And we worked very closely together for, just under 9 months. I helped him, really grow that company.
In what capacity?
Just everything. I mean, when I first started working with Golden Shovel Agency, it was basically just Ron and Brian Westerberg as a silent investor, and Aaron Briscoe and Jeff Epley. That was the company.
Okay.
They had a separate company that they were working with called Fairlight Interactive, which was actually Jeff Epley's company that he owned with his wife, which he later put in his wife's name for reasons I'm not going to go into. But anyway, so that's kind of, that was their people that were doing their websites. They didn't really have the marketing expertise that I had. And so when they were making cold calls to companies trying to sell their websites, people would just be like, well, we don't know who you are, and we're not really interested in that. What I did for the company, which is kind of what I did for Atomic Learning, was the marketing of it. So marketing, getting the word out via all kinds of channels for them. And that just really, put them on the forefront of the conversation, as Ron would say. There's emails from Ron to his colleagues saying, Mary's doing amazing things with this company. She's really putting us in the conversation. And I, worked with him for about 9 months until his company really took off. And then he pretty much, kind of basically kicked me out, essentially, and stole a product that I had developed. So that's kind of how I...
Let's talk about your relationship with him during those 9 months. We want to get to the part where it all went to pieces, but would you say you were in a friendly relationship with him, or was it more like a boss-employee relationship?
You know what? That's a good question. I think I thought we were friends.
Yeah.
We would talk on the phone. I mean, he would, tell me things about his family. I didn't see it as he was really my boss. I felt like, he told me that I was going to get to be in the ground floor of the startup company, that I would eventually get to be, an investor, a partner, things like that. And I didn't really see it like he was my boss because, frankly, he wouldn't give me anything in writing to say that I was employed. I asked and was never given anything like that.
So you were sort of subcontractor without a subcontract?
Pretty much. I think he wanted to have it both ways. I mean, in hindsight, when I really look at what he did, he made me think I was an employee, because like when I gave him my contractor rates early on, and you know, there were normal contractor rates for my services. That's when he kind of said to me, oh, well, I can't really afford this. I mean, he kind of went into some personal reasons like why he couldn't afford it as far as his family's financial situation. And then he made me, you know, then he just listed me as marketing manager on the website. So that in my mind made me think, oh, okay, so he wants me to be in this company as their marketing person. He told me he would make me the VP of marketing eventually. Everything indicated that I was going to be an employee, that I was going to be a partner in this company. I mean, he had me, you know, being the boss of other people that were coming in and things like that. So he was benefiting from having my services like that, may make me think that I was an employee. But then at the end of the day, because he wouldn't give me anything in writing, he could pretty much just say, see ya, and take whatever he wanted without even paying me. You know, frankly, he wouldn't even pay me at the time the amount that he owed, the outstanding amount that he owed me for the marketing pieces that I had done for Golden Shovel. That's irrespective of my product, which I was supposed to get a percentage of the sale from. So I don't know what that was about. I don't think it was a problem for him, because I found out later that, you know, right when he sent me a letter saying, sorry, this company just can't afford this or something. We're a small growing company. We can't afford to pay you, basically. But then I found out that he took his, you know, extended family to a 2-week trip to Israel and bought a lakeshore property. So I'm pretty sure he probably could have afforded to pay me what he owed me.
We've been talking the last couple of days, and you shared with me some information that there's a document that I'm going to ask you to read it, because it explains to the public exactly what happened. It's written by what? Your first?
My first attorney. Yep.
And that will help the viewers to really understand what's going on. So why don't you do that now before we go any further, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. This was a letter that my attorney had written to Kresha and the board of Golden Shovel, actually. The copy was sent to them on Monday, March 26, 2012. As you are fully aware, Ms. Whelan was solely responsible for the development and creation of numerous intellectual properties, of which she is the rightful owner, including but not limited to Gatekeeper, social management, and associated copyrighted material. Ms. Whelan has taken steps to protect her property rights, including but not limited to obtaining a copyright registration certificate for the Gatekeeper-related materials and filing an application for patent for Gatekeeper. These steps specifically relate to intellectual property utilized by GSA. GSA's utilization of her intellectual property will eventually subject it to liability to her for damages and possibly penalties. This letter serves as notice that Gatekeeper and its associated materials are protected by U.S. copyright law, and that continued copying or distribution of these materials are therefore willful, and thereby subject to increased penalties pursuant to U.S. Copyright Code 17 U.S.C. As you are aware, Ms. Whelan was an independent contractor for GSA from approximately August 2010 to May 2011. This relationship is not only clearly defined by Minnesota and federal law, but is also evidenced by GSA's issuance and reporting of Form 1099 miscellaneous. No contracts were ever executed between the parties, thus nothing specifically denoted that the Gatekeeper materials created by Ms. Whelan were made for hire within the meaning of 17 U.S.C. As such, Ms. Whelan retains her copyright rights in this material. Since the copyright certificate has been issued, Ms. Whelan already has certain rights and causes of action against GSA under 17 U.S.C. The Federal Copyright Act 17 U.S.C. provides statutory minimum damages of $500 per copy, and additional damages calculated as twice the infringement damages should the infringement be willful, which it was. See the notice provision of the previous paragraph. If copying is done by third parties third parties being, you know, based on the assistance of Golden Shovel or yourself personally, such as providing copies for them to use, then Golden Shovel and yourself would be liable as contributory infringers. The parties you supplied, aided would be infringers. In short, you, Golden Shovel, and all of your clients to whom you made copies of Ms. Whelan's works available would be liable for copyright infringement. Further, when Ms. Whelan's patent application concerning Gatekeeper matures into a U.S. patent, Ms. Whelan will also own patent rights to Gatekeeper pursuant to federal patent laws under 35 U.S.C. In June of 2010, Ms. Whelan's employment was terminated with Atomic Learning Incorporated. It is Ms. Whelan's contention that she was mistreated by several coworkers, including individuals with supervisory roles, to force her resignation. Ultimately, the company decided to let her go in order to replace her with another individual. Shortly thereafter, Ms. Whelan applied for and was awarded unemployment benefits. After 2 months of her being unemployed, you contacted Ms. Whelan concerning a startup company, i.e. GSA. Apparently, you were and continue to be a corporate officer and shareholder of Atomic Learning. You had stated, however, that you had a similar experience with the company and that you were no longer involved in its operations. You also mentioned that you did still own shares of the company, but these were to be redeemed by the corporation in the very near future. Your assurances were important because Ms. Whelan had no desire to provide services either directly or indirectly for Atomic Learning or anyone associated with Atomic Learning. Ultimately, it appears that Ms. Whelan was misled. These misrepresentations led to her suffering both physically and mentally. Initially, Ms. Whelan began designing email templates, designing print materials, developing new verbiage for the GSA website, and restructuring the web pages. Thereafter, she began creating and implementing a marketing plan for Economic Gateway and developing a social media campaign. In October of 2010, GSA named Ms. Whelan GSA Marketing Manager, and then later as Director of Strategic Marketing. She was also promised the position of Vice President of Marketing. This was due to the success of Ms. Whelan's efforts and the desire to keep her involved in the company's general and marketing operations. In addition to the title came the offers of an immediate increase in her compensation, full-time employment, and ownership interest in the company, and reimbursements for business expenses in the near future. None of these were realized. After several months of unfairly remaining at the same rate of compensation, Ms. Whelan was strongly considering cutting ties with GSA. This was also due in part that she found out that you were still a shareholder of Atomic Learning and you had been hiring Atomic Learning employees. She decided to remain involved based on yet another promise that again her salary, in quotes, salary would be reset in the near future and you would not bring in any former Atomic Learning employees. About this time, Ms. Whelan's activities substantially increased from not only focusing on internal marketing activities for GSA, but developing her new social media platform. Until this point, GSA had been solely relying on the sale of the product called Economic Gateway. Economic Gateway's presence in the marketplace was virtually non-existent at this time. As mentioned in the previous paragraph, Ms. Whelan's additional efforts were in developing a social media networking platform now known as Gatekeeper Social Management. This was intended to be a standalone product and also to complement Economic Gateway. It is abundantly clear that GSA is now focusing most of its attention on promoting this product. Currently, this product appears to have a subscription-based pricing structure where the customer will pay an initial setup fee and then pay a monthly maintenance fee. Although Ms. Whelan has numerous claims for damages against GSA, this letter will focus on the most important. The most important being her ownership interest in Gatekeeper and copyrightable material. She created and developed the product Gatekeeper that is now being marketed and sold by GSA. She also authored voluminous documents that are or were utilized by GSA relating to Gatekeeper and otherwise. Ms. Whelan currently has and will have additional claims against GSA and possibly against you individually and those clients and Golden Shovel who have reproduced any part of Ms. Whelan's copyrighted works. Ms. Whelan proposes a 5-year non-exclusive licensing agreement relating to the intellectual property she created and rightfully owns. She is also willing to enter into a release agreement regarding any other damages that she is entitled to in this matter. She insists that any settlement be in a lump sum payment so all of the parties can go their separate ways. She also demands that she receive appropriate accreditations, which was the biggest to me, was the accreditations. Considering the success of Gatekeeper and various other facts, we believe her damages will easily exceed $500,000. Obviously, Ms. Whelan will fully pursue any remedies that are available to her if a resolution cannot be reached in the next several days. This letter is for settlement purposes to resolve this matter and provide notice of copyright infringement as identified in the attached letter. This is to provide you with a window to address the situation, but not to relieve you, your company, or your clients from any liability relating to damages incurred by Ms. Whelan.
What is the date on that document?
March 26, 2012.
Okay, so this is an ongoing
This-
one.
And after they continued to infringe after this letter was sent, in fact, I believe his response was, the response that we got back from Paul Jacobson was, we are not aware of anything Ms. Whelan created while she was working with GSA. Which,
So, is it possible, if I heard this right, that were you to win a lawsuit in the future,
yep,
that any of their clients who have taken on their product
any of them,
called Gatekeeper, which is linked to your intellectual property,
contributory infringers. Yes.
Including the city of Little Falls, which has a contract right now. The city of Little Falls just gave Ron Kresha a contract for it's around $20,000 for producing a new website for this city. He was paid recently about $9,000 and some odd dollars, just shy of $10,000 for that work. So technically, were you to win a future lawsuit based on your intellectual property, the city of Little Falls, in that they're now a client of Kresha's, could indeed have to pay you some money for your intellectual property.
Well, Carol Anderson already was a client of theirs from even while I was still working with them, so she was already a part of it and would have seen the same situation.
Okay, and then there's
Yeah.
some more that you probably would like to read.
Yeah. So that was March 26, 2012.
Did you have a question you wanted to ask her about that, Teresa?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wanted to cover a couple things that you actually brought up, so.
Okay.
And then March 27th, 2012, this is to the Board of Directors regarding Gatekeeper Social Management at Mary Whelan. Dear Directors, I am an attorney representing Mary Whelan in matters relating to her copyright and other intellectual properties. Ms. Whelan is the author and copyright owner of the registered work Online Social Media Marketing, more commonly known as Gatekeeper Social Management. Ms. Whelan's registration of this work was effective November 17, 2011. As documented by the enclosed copy of Copyright Registration Certificate number TX74766015, Ms. Whelan's work is protected by the Federal Copyright Act. It has come to Ms. Whelan's attention that you and Golden Shovel Agency are copying, distributing, and creating derivative works based on Ms. Whelan's copyright-protected work. This constitutes copyright infringement under 17 U.S.C. 501 and subjects you and Golden Shovel Agency the damages prescribed by federal law under 17 U.S.C. 504 and 17 U.S.C. 505 and other applicable law. Ms. Whelan is also aware that you and Golden Shovel Agency have facilitated infringement by others and are facilitating others in the infringement of Ms. Whelan's work by providing copies of her work and derivative works based on her works to such others. Such others include, but are not limited to, those of your clients to whom you or Golden Shovel Agency have provided copies or copies of derivative works of Ms. Whelan's works. Ms. Whelan has invested substantial time and resources in developing and protecting her intellectual property rights and considers any infringement of these rights to be a very serious matter. Accordingly, Ms. Whelan hereby demands that you immediately cease and desist from any and all infringing uses of her work, online social media marketing. Failure to comply with this notice will subject you and Golden Shovel Agency to elevated damages as willful infringers under 17 U.S.C. 504.
And do you have any proof that you had a copyright or were in the process of getting the copyright?
Oh yeah.
You have that with you today?
I don't have, you mean the copyright, the certificate?
Well,
I don't have the certificate with me, but I have, actually, this is odd, interesting. Kresha actually sent a copy of it around to his board, to his people.
is that right?
Oh yeah. Let's see, what do my notes say here? It was March 28th, 2012. He sent, the subject was the copyright for Mary. And it was the actual copyright that I had filed with the Copyright Office. Basically, it has the registration number, the date, the application title, the date of creation, 2011, date of publication, April 11th, 2011, the authorship on the application, which is my name. And then, of course, that I had put in there was pre-existing material, photographs, things like that. So. Rights and permissions, and then of course it has my copyright attorney's name and address and phone number on there.
Now, we've had some conversations recently, and you mentioned to me that your house was broken into and your computer, your laptop was stolen.
Yeah.
I find that really odd. Can you put that into the time perspective here as to when that happened to do with all of this?
So I had I had it before I started working with Golden Shovel. But it was my own laptop, my own MacBook Pro, 17-inch. And I used that because it was mine. I used that for all of the time that I was working with Golden Shovel Agency. They didn't provide me any equipment. I did everything at my house, on my computer, in my office. In about 2013, I cannot remember the exact date. I believe it was around October of 2013. Shortly after my second attorney filed the second complaint, somebody broke into my house at sometime between 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. Even though I had, the car was in the driveway, somebody broke into my house and all they took was the laptop. That's all they took. They didn't take even the Xbox games, that was the first thing that my son said too. Well, why wouldn't they take the Xbox games?
I find that really odd.
Yeah.
Do you have any knowledge of how much Golden Shovel Agency did make around that time or has made any of the time that you were involved with them?
They made a lot. They had, so when I was working with them, the first contract that they were supposed to get was with Northwest Kansas Regional something, Collaborative or something. And that was in December. I had just done this was before I even invented Gatekeeper. So this was just when I was just doing their marketing stuff for them. I preceded, the salespeople's attendance at this conference in Chicago to get this contract for the Northwest Kansas thing. And when they got there, all of the people were like, oh my gosh, you have to tell your marketing person, congratulations, because we see you all over the place now. Interestingly enough, however, the economic development guy that was supposed to be doing the contract with them said his house started on fire or something. So that contract fell through. So they didn't get that contract. So then they were working on Great River Energy. That was the next contract they were working on. And that was Tom Lembrecht, I believe, was the main point of contact. Meanwhile, which I later find out, Aaron Brissois was taking my stuff, my inventions. Gatekeeper was one of them, but there was something else that involved QR codes and a tracking method that I had developed. And Aaron was giving that to Tom Lembrecht.
Without your permission?
Without my permission. I mean, Tom Lembrecht didn't know who the heck I was. Because I was somebody who worked at my home on my own computer, just working with Kresha mainly, and then sometimes talking to Aaron once in a while. But they pretty much had me, now in hindsight I can see they had me just working behind the scenes and nobody knew anything about me. So Tom, I couldn't really blame Tom Lembrecht, he didn't know who the heck I was. But they gave him all of my, intellectual property information. They gave it to, the EDAM, Economic Development Agency of Minnesota, MAEDC, which is like an 11 region cooperative of the Midwestern states.
An energy cooperative or?
No, I think it's like a MAEDC, Mid-American Economic Development Conference or something.
Oh.
It's like a get-together for all of the agencies. Mm-hmm. But I see, that they had given their marketing people my marketing stuff, my stuff that I had actually come up with on my own. Mm-hmm. These people, of course, think that it's coming directly from Golden Shovel Agency, but it's not. It was coming from me. And they did not have my permission to give that. So, but as far as your original question, how much did they make? So, of course, Ron couldn't pay me the money to save me from a single mom from complete and utter financial destruction. But he could pay Fairlight Interactive $220,000 in 1 year for basic. Fairlight Interactive, now keep in mind, was Jeff Upley's.
One of the other employees.
Well, Jeff and Aaron, that was their other company, was Fairlight Interactive.
$220,000
for a year. Yeah, that's their outsourcing. That's their outsourcing expenses for Fairlight. The partner salaries were $400,000. Heidi Thielen, which is one of the people that was pretty integral in pushing me out, actually. Hers was $40,000, and they had something about a copyright expense was $10,000. So I don't know if that was for their lawyer to pay for legal expenses. Then they also have marketing. John and Aaron also got an additional $30,000 for something. In the income, Gateway Utilities was $500,000. I'm guessing that's like Great River Energy. Gateway Local, $250,000, and Gatekeeper, which was my product, $100,000. And I was supposed to get a percentage of the sales of Gatekeeper and didn't get a dime in any of it. And according to Kresha, he couldn't afford it. So I don't know.
So
he could have, so why didn't he,
Like hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was basically, my question is, do you have a ballpark?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so they were making a lot of money.
And when I first started working with them, nobody knew who they were. He even said to me that he was going to lose the company due to lack of sales, and then I came along.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this company, Golden Shovel Agency, digs for government
Yeah.
gold.
Yep.
And I say that because Ron Kresha is a representative and he professes to be for small government, but he's digging for big government dollars.
Yeah.
He's
And-
gleaning the money from that which he says he wants to
Because
eliminate
he's-
or lessen.
He's two-faced. He tells you one thing to your face. He does another thing behind your back, and he tells other people. He tells everybody a different story. That's the one thing that I have really finally kind of come to understand through all of this, and like some of the anger that I had towards other people that I felt like were involved in, you know, helping him basically steal my stuff. Like, I don't think he was giving them the full story. I don't think he really truly told them that I was the one developing this stuff, and he was just somebody that was lying to me every day.
Do you have recollection some of the company names that GSA has done business with by chance?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. There's a ton. I mean, obviously, Great River Energy was one. Cambridge, Minnesota was one client that they had when I started working with them, but that had nothing to do with either Economic Gateway, actually, or my product. That was just them doing a website for them.
I'm curious about other
Red
cities.
Wing, Minnesota. I actually worked directly with Sherry Chorney. In fact, there was a press release that we put out about, and Ron had written a blog posting about when I did the first social media kickoff with Sherry Chorney and Myron White at Red Wing, Minnesota. And Sherry actually called me a couple times on my personal cell phone to ask me questions related to how to do this or that. So, you know, there's Red Wing, Minnesota. Let's see, Farmington, Minnesota. Like Dakota Electric was one of the the child electric co-ops of Great River Energy. I know that was like a big thing. Like there's so many I couldn't really. I mean, obviously Morrison County with through what's her face that
Carol
Carol
Anderson,
Anderson.
County Economic Development.
yeah Morrison County Economic
So she's a client of his.
Yeah, she was from way back when I was still working there. They were positioning my product position gatekeeper to them, and I didn't even tell me. The only thing that he had asked me at the time was if he had my permission to sell gatekeeper to the city of the Little Falls Police Department. But then because my product became so big and I think they realized just how lucrative it was going to be, I think that's when he's like, I'm just going to totally take this and she can't do anything about it.
Do you have any knowledge of how they treat their customers? How they service and treat them?
Well, I know that from what I saw when I was sorting through discovery documents, there was at least 2 clients that were, ironically, it was Red Wing, it was Sherry Chorney, and Tom Lembrecht from Great River Energy. Both of them were complaining about why were we being overcharged? Why is this invoice overcharging us? There was another customer that was complaining about why are there so many spelling and grammatical errors? You know, and I know that was an issue that his other company had also, that there was a lot of spelling and grammatical
And
errors.
do you have knowledge of what they're charging these customers to develop and either develop a website or use the gatekeeper services or whatever, roughly what they're charging these people?
I mean, it depends on the client. Like each proposal is basically, I think, based on how many subscribers they have. Excuse me. Obviously, Great River Energy was like a humongous amount of money. And it was actually, so what they did with that was my product, they started grouping my product with Economic Gateway. So Gatekeeper plugged into Economic Gateway. Suddenly, now they're able to sell it. Before that, nobody wanted Economic Gateway because why would we spend all this money for you to develop a website for us? Right? That's what people were thinking. How can we justify that to our boards?
So it's maybe at least as much as Little Falls has spent, maybe more.
Oh, way more. I think with the amount you told me that Little Falls spent isn't as much as what they charge other places. I mean, I don't know, but I'd have to really look through my memories a whole lot more, but
Maybe some of your notes would share some of the information. While you're looking for that, I didn't ever follow atomic learning, but something that's baffling to me is that evidently Ron Kresha takes credit for developing atomic learning. Is that right?
I guess he does.
And he
I mean,
didn't.
He had, okay, so I don't know if you've ever met Jim Norwood.
No?
He lives in, he was a teacher around in one of the cities around here. Genius. I mean, we're talking, this is, Steve Jobs living in amongst us type of person. This man is just an absolute genius, visionary. He's very humble, and he's also, probably somebody who would never really go out of his way to tout himself. And that's probably why Kresha then is now trying to say that atomic learning was his invention, when in reality, Jim Norwood took a sabbatical for a year off work to develop atomic learning, to develop his idea to do these just-in-time learning tutorials. Kresha was brought in as, I think, one of 10 people to invest money into the company.
Mm-hmm.
But he, as far as any kind of intellectual anything, he didn't invest any intellect into anything. He was just investing some money apparently that he had. So I don't know how he can say that when he created atomic learning, which is what he's said to not only me but to other people in emails and things that I've seen. I don't know how he can even justify that to himself to say that he developed atomic learning when in reality he was really just an investor.
May I just mention this, and you and I touched on it before the show. Sounds like Donald Trump. It sounds like a big business wheeler dealer who will say whatever it takes and do whatever it takes to put a little more money in his pocket and cheat whomever he thinks he can get away with cheating.
Well, that's interesting because when I've been following the election with Trump, and there's some things that stand out to me, and I mean, I'll be honest, like I've never really been somebody who's been either a Republican or a Democrat. I usually just go by the person. I think, okay, well, what are they saying? What are they for? What kind of a person are they? But as I've been listening to Donald Trump and comparing that to Kresha, and I'm like, okay, I hate to be like this, but is that just how Republicans are? Because Kresha does not have respect for women. He thinks he can exploit women in any way he can. I'm not the only one that was exploited, obviously, but he cheats the little guy. When I hear about how Donald Trump had all these contractors working for him and then he just stiffed, and you see the videos of these, men that seem like really great guys that built these beautiful things for Trump. And then after they built them or did whatever they were doing for him, he just was like, well, I'm not paying you. And he just didn't pay them. And their lawyers would intimidate the people, and you can't go up against people with that kind of money. They've got the best lawyers, they've got the money to screw you, and they know it. Mm-hmm. What else? I mean, there's other things too that with Trump that I was like, well, this is just like this guy. So.
I think the attitude toward women is telling. It sounds as if Ron Kresha felt free to cheat you partly because you're female.
Yeah.
And there are men who have the idea that women are only about half human and not as important or worthy as men. So if they have to cheat somebody, they look for the nearest woman. So they'll pay Peter and cheat Mary.
Right. But that's not a man. That's a coward.
Well, yes,
that's what I mean. I look at Trump and I'm just like, what a disgusting human being.
Yeah.
Because who talks about? I'm not even making this about men and women. I don't feel like this is not a men issue. But no, but I mean you're right. But I just mean I'm not one who's going to be like. I don't think of genders type situations really, but how can they treat women as if they're like actually property or livestock? Really, that's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So that's why I look at Trump and the things that he says, and I'm like, that is disgusting. And he actually believes that, and he's got women that actually stand by and let him talk about them that way. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, he's got this beautiful wife that he's cheating on with all these other women and doing all these disgusting things, and she just stands there with a stupid look on her face. And I don't know why she does that, but
maybe the money.
The money, I guess.
Well, this is not related to Kresha in any way, but I want to mention that I was reading the paper this weekend, and I didn't know until I read this that Senator Paul Gazelka has a degree from Oral Roberts University, which is part of the Prosperity Gospel churches, Word Rhema based. Oral Roberts was very much into that, and around the same time frame when all this was developing. And I have a close friend who also attended Oral Roberts, so I know how word Rhema that organization, that university really is, that would explain why there, last time you were here, you talked about how world domination,
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
dominion was, world domination, that was the term that was used by Kresha.
It was, and I saw some emails that I remember I saw some emails that were him with his Tea Party people or whatever talking about that very thing, and this idea that the white race is supreme and that everyone else should be kicked out, and I don't.
Well, so now we know that both legislators in this area are linked to that type of world domination type thinking, and
Yeah.
that Gazelka actually has a degree from that university. That's really troubling. The prosperity churches preach that, and there's one here locally, there's one in most communities, and this word Rhema denomination, it's a non-denomination. I should spell that. It's word, W-O-R-D, /Rhema, R-H-E-M-A. And if you're not prosperous, there's sin in your life. That's one of the basic concepts. And if you are paralyzed in a wheelchair, someone actually said to Johnny Erickson Tata, a lovely Christian individual who was a quadriplegic, that if she, and this person was a prosperity believer, if you can't get up and walk out of that wheelchair, there's sin in your life.
Wow, that's so ignorant.
She received her handicap, her disability, when she was young and she dove off of a edge of something or a dock, and she got a neck injury from diving.
Was this Clausen's Pier that was at that?
I don't remember where I read this or heard this, but I know for a fact that it was a word Rhema believer,
Okay,
a Joyce Meyer type
Sure.
follower.
sure.
We're talking Benny Hinn, Creflo Dollar,
Right.
it's Mac Hammond, and I can't think of the other guy in the cities. I'll think of his name. He's from Trinidad, I believe. Anyway, there's two big word Rhema churches in the Twin Cities, prosperity gospel churches. And to know that our legislator is hooked in. So now we got Michelle Bachmann,
Yeah.
who's into this same type of thinking. Ron Kresha, maybe. Gazelka for sure is.
Yeah.
After having attended that university, you couldn't not be. When you go to a university like that, you're permeated with that
It
stuff.
would infiltrate your.
I mean, if you don't believe it and you're not throwing money at those pastors that are leading those organizations, you're diddly.
Well, right, so then the alma mater help each other get rise to these positions of power so that they can throw more money at them, basically.
Right.
And they're also tied into doing whatever they want them to.
And this one of the 7 pillars that they have to get to believe in this world dominionism.
Mhm.
That it's really frightening to have people like that in office.
It is, and it's frightening to me to think that how is it that women can be behind, how is it that as a woman, any woman could actually be behind or for any of this?
Right.
Because really you're basically, as a woman, denying the fact that you were born as a woman and agreeing to just be cattle, pretty much.
In a male-dominated.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the irony. Some of these people are accusing Muslims and the teaching of Islam
Yeah.
that say that they dominate their women and they don't treat them right. How often did we hear
Exactly.
before the lead up of the Iraq invasion, illegal that it was, that women are treated poorly there, they don't have rights like women here do and so on. Really?
Right. They're
Women
doing
can't
the
serve
same
in the
thing.
Catholic Church, they can't be ministers in the Catholic Church. They can't hold other offices in the Catholic Church. In an Assembly of God church and Baptist and other ones, you can't be a deacon in those churches if you're women.
Right.
But we don't dominate our women here in this country.
No, Christianity has no state.
It's because, and this is what I've heard from, from people who believe themselves to be young, what is it, young world Christians or something like that, that, Eve was responsible for the fall of man, therefore punish Eve, right? So, I feel like part of it too, I think that's twofold. I think that a lot of women are brainwashed into believing this because they're made to feel like they can't go out and do things on their own. They have to be dependent on this man or whatever. But I also feel like from the man's point of view, I think it's this maybe subconscious thing. I feel like it's fear of women having more power over them. They can't imagine that a woman can possibly have any kind of, like, be better than them in any kind of way because it would be too much of a blow to their ego. So they have to keep women down and in their place.
Or maybe
the
they
church
feel
is-
that women would be dangerous if we had power.
Which is funny because actually women are more compassionate and probably have a better overall view of ways to keep things.
As long as the men don't screw with them and brainwash them.
Well, that's
Well,
true.
the church teaches hierarchy. Scripture teaches hierarchy. It's
And
built
women-
into it. It's a core principle.
Yeah.
And women are secondary to men.
And what,
Through all
why?
of it. And
What's
in a
the
marriage,
difference?
the woman
Yeah.
is secondary to the man. I want to encourage you, because I don't know where we're at with time here, but I want to encourage you to go through your notes so that
Okay.
you make sure that you're discussing or bringing up things that we may, Teresa and I may not know about, that you particularly would like to talk about or share with the
Yeah.
audience.
I mean, I think one of the things is that on July 24th, 2012, so that was, let's see, Kresha was put on notice and his company, his board of directors was put on notice, and that I demanded immediately as of March 27th to stop, cease and desist of all infringing activities. And they were still infringing, which he had actually admitted at the end. He admitted that yes, we were, after I went through everything and pointed out everything he was infringing on. And then on July 24th, 2012, Kresha sent an email to Aaron Bressois saying, can we hide, the subject was gatekeeper page, the gatekeeper page on the website. Can we hide it until you make the changes? That would be helpful. Changed, and then Aaron wrote back, changed. I tweaked some verbiage from our newest proposal, and then Ron writes back, thanks. Also, can we put copyright Golden Shovel Agency July 2012 at the bottom?
Oh, jeez.
So, I mean, this guy has absolutely no idea of the legal system, apparently. He just thinks he can do whatever he wants, and, you know, one of the other notes that I had made was, I thought it was interesting that, like Kresha's hometown of Columbus, Nebraska, for instance, Kresha had sent an email around to us when we were working there. He said, the time is right, we just need to be in the conversation. Recently, Columbus, Nebraska, my hometown, signed a contract with Civic Plus. From the last board minutes, an agreement that pays Civic Plus $24,989 for work updating the city's website. A $3,362 maintenance fee must be paid each subsequent year. So, you know, I guess for most people, if they went to their hometown and said, I have this product.
He can't even sell his product in his hometown.
No, which makes you wonder why.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, actually. I'm not trying to make him feel bad as a person. Like, I think all of us have our own insecurities. All of us, you know, have issues with different things. And I mean, it's a big blow to anyone's ego that their hometown wouldn't want to buy their product, right? So I'm not trying to make him feel bad as a person, but I am pointing out that whether it's his judgment or he has, I mean, I'm not sure I've never been able to figure out what the problem is with this guy. Like, how can he say to your face for months, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this? And what it really ended up with in my case was I don't think he had the authority to be making me the promises that he was making me. I don't think he truly had the authority to do that. What kind of a grown man is so careless with someone else's well-being and welfare that they just flippantly make promises that they don't actually have the authority to make?
Right. You look through your notes some more. I'm gonna share a little something here.
Okay.
I want to tell Mary directly that I found some interesting information in the Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984. Amongst a lot of other good stuff, it says this. This is why this public access TV availability is so important for people like you and other guests that we've had to come in, because free speech is at the heart of our democracy. It's what really matters. And that's what cable television, local public access television, is really all about. This is from that Cable Communications Act of 1984. The Act specified that cable operators were expected to be receptive to their local communities' needs and interests. Congress recognized the vital role of cable television in encouraging and providing a place for free expression. This provision assured that cable communications provide the general public with the widest possible diversity of information and services. Through this statute, Congress attempted to uphold the First Amendment interest of cable audiences to receive diversified information. Furthermore, it prohibited cable operators from exerting any type of editorial control over program content broadcast through PEG channels and freed them from any potential liability for the content. So free speech is at the heart of everything public access television is about. And I want to take this opportunity, never done this before on the show, but I want to encourage other people in the community to think about developing a program that they might like to produce so that they can bring in guests that they feel have something worthy to say and need and want to be heard that may not otherwise be able to be heard. I won't ever forget during my lawsuit, one of the things my attorney, Larry Frost, asked me to do was to find out how much it would cost me to buy time slots on the local radio station here. The costs were prohibitive. Then I was told to do some research on what advertising in the local paper would cost. A little bitty Morrison County Record that only goes throughout this area, not a Star Tribune or a New York Times or Washington Post or any of those big ones. The costs were phenomenal. I didn't have the money. That's why it was so terribly important that I could have my free speech in my front yard, as much so as the city took advantage, violated their own law, erected and illegally maintained the We Support Our Troops banner for over 10 years. But then they got after me and said, no, I couldn't have my free speech on little placards that were about twice as big as this box. That's why this station and this show and others produced in this studio are so terribly important for free speech. So I'll let you go now. I just wanted to put that in there.
No,
so people should think about developing a TV program. I know why I started thinking about developing this one. It was around the time that the Marriage Equality Act was coming up, so that gay couples could marry in this state. And I wanted to make sure that that group that I was a part of could air their feathers in public. Now, it never happened. We never had a guest from that come in here and talk. But that's the reason why I developed this show years ago.
And may I say, Robin has a lot of enemies, I have a lot of enemies. There are a lot of people who don't like this show. I would love to see a conservative version of Can We Talk, or named whatever they choose to name it, where people come in and talk about their conservative views and expose the liberals, if there's anything to expose, and no doubt there would be.
And then have a debate between us, maybe.
Yeah, maybe every now and then we can all get together in the same room and slug it out. But anyway, so I'd just like to first of all, thank the GRA TV Channel 180 for having us, and also to encourage others to make this your home for your views. Okay.
And now Mary's probably got some more to say.
I guess I do. I hope I'm not boring everyone yet, but
No, I don't think you are.
one of the things that I thought was important, because you'd asked me about Ron's involvement with atomic learning and things like that. After Ron left, the CEO, which was one of the original 10 guys, his name is Dan Meyer, and Ron actually told me that Dan was the devil. So I don't know what that was about.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't really know Dan all that well either, enough to make an opinion on that one way or another, really. I knew that I knew that he'd been going over to whatever that state or that country is, I can't even remember. He'd been going overseas quite a bit to Dubai, quite a bit for
United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, that. So I knew that. That's about all I really knew about Dan, because I didn't have a lot of interactions with him at Atomic Learning either. But he was the CEO of Atomic Learning by the time Kresha left. And Kresha just told me that Dan was one of the people that was integral in pushing Kresha out of the company. And so he said that Dan was the devil, and kind of alluded to that Dan was also the reason why I got pushed out. So I don't know whether that was true or not, but Anyway, there was an article published in the Staples World, which is where Dan apparently is from.
Staples, Minnesota.
Staples, Minnesota.
Okay.
And this was written on October 10th, 2013. And it says, Dan Meyer made his mark in business. Whatever happened to? From the Staples World reporter, Don Timms. It's interesting because throughout this was about Dan's life. And he brought up atomic learning. And he kind of went through his career span, and not once in here did he mention Ron Kresha as being integral in atomic learning. So he said, Dan's job with UPI, of Brainerd, Universal Pensions, entailed managing the company's commercial software development division. It was intriguing. He recalled in his work at that time. This was in the mid-90s at the height of the dot-com era. Dan would eventually manage UPI's office in San Francisco as well. While at Freshwater and UPI, Dan had networked with a lot of other technology coordinators, including Jim Norwood, the founder of Atomic Learning. So Jim had an idea on how to solve some of the common problems of educators that we had heard over the years, such as how do I do a PowerPoint or how do I do an Excel spreadsheet? Norwood developed a business plan to put answers to those kinds of questions online and developed a compression technique to allow for the quick streaming of video over limited bandwidth connections such as modems, which I think he called just-in-time learning. And then Dan was one of 10 individuals that Norwood gathered together in 2000 for the purpose of starting Atomic Learning. A couple of years later, he stepped in as the company's fourth member, and in 2007, Dan took over as CEO. He also owned a minority percentage of the company. So my point there is just that, I mean, Dan Meyer even gives Jim Norwood credit. Why wouldn't you? He's the one, anyone who's humble and anyone who has, in my mind, a conscience, gives credit where credit is due.
Right.
And I just want to kind of know why Ron Kresha refuses to give Jim Norwood credit, which also, why does he refuse to give me credit? Why does he refuse to give... One other thing I didn't mention here, and I've focused on myself so much that I feel like it's overshadowed really the bigger issue is that it's not just me. There's been a lot of women who have been exploited by Ron Kresha. For instance, before I ever even came into Golden Shovel and started working with them, they were working with a company out of Wisconsin called ADC, which is a GIS. They had a GIS tool, ADC for GIS. And there was a young gal, she's a really young gal, named Lindsay Olson, who had this idea to take, she said, what if you take this ADC for GIS tool that we have and you plug it into websites as kind of like, to allow cities to have a website that has their demographics on it, the different demographic type things. Mm-hmm. And that's how Economic Gateway was born. But why don't we hear about Lindsay Olson? Why is it that now suddenly, Aaron Brissois is the one that developed Economic Gateway? No, it's not actually. And previously Aaron had given Lindsay credit, but what happened was when Aaron and the Golden Shovel people met a competitor to ADC for GIS, which was GIS Planning out of California, led by Anatolia Ubaldi, then suddenly ADC for GIS was like thrown off the bus, and now they're partners with GIS Planning. So that's just really creepy and crappy, to be honest.
Yeah.
But so it's not just me. The other thing was there's been a lot of women who have worked for Golden Shovel Agency, and I don't see their name being given credit for anything at this point. Joni Anderson, which I didn't know personally, but I saw in a lot of the documents that she must have been integral in doing some things. Don't see her name anywhere. She's never given credit.
Do you think that two things. Number one, didn't you tell me that Kresha was a teacher?
Kresha was a teacher in Piers, and Diana Treadle had told me this, so I didn't know any of this until Diana Treadle told me a lot of this stuff. Diana Treadle actually had worked with Ron in his basement in the beginning stages of Atomic Learning. But he was a teacher in Piers. One of his students there was Heidi Thielen. Apparently had a crush on her. And then years later, when he has this Golden Shovel Agency, he was then able to pull her in to Golden Shovel Agency and actually ended up giving her my job and the salary he had promised me.
Wow.
So, but again, you still don't see Heidi's name given credit for anything either. I mean, she did some terrible things, but I'm guessing that she did these things because of the misinformation that she was given by Kresha.
Is that the only student he hired, or are there others?
Well, John Blissenbach was one of his students. Actually, John Blissenbach's a really good guy. I think he's still at Atomic Learning, I'm not sure. But he was a former student of Kresha's that was brought into Atomic Learning and is still either there or was the VP of Business or something. I think, I almost want to say Adrian Welly was one of Kresha's students at one point too, which he ended up running against in the first election. But so he was a teacher there, and the way that it was presented to me anyways was that Kresha had always had a crush on Heidi Whelan. And actually he said to her one time in front of a bunch of us something to the effect of, "You never gave me the time of day in high school." So I don't know, but I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying that, you know, he's got some other things going on here that motivate him other than what's on the surface.
And do you have any reason to believe that they're fair in hiring people, or
No.
that maybe they have turned people away that they didn't feel were worthy enough or pretty
Yes.
enough or whatever?
Or just not popular enough? Yeah, I saw one of the emails actually was making fun of this woman in Little Falls. I won't say her name for respect of her, but I don't know her. I just know that the email was basically them making fun of her. "Oh, look at how funny this is. This woman is," just implying that she's not good enough, you know, basically to be part of them, and then they're going on making fun of her in emails. You know, so like you pretty much have to be, I think actually somebody said this to me at Atomic Learning, like you have to be a size, 3 to work on the marketing team or something like that. It's just,
Wow.
women have no value as far as from what I've gathered. Women have no value at all unless they've got some sort of attractiveness to them. But even those women don't get treated properly, in my opinion. So
Then we're getting short of time here. We probably only have about 4 minutes left. Is there anything else in your notes that you want to discuss?
I have so many notes that I've said a lot, and I don't know really what specifically else I could talk about here, because there's a lot of stuff. I think the bottom line for me, and this has all been very cathartic for me, honestly, I should have done this years ago. The bottom line for me that I came out of all of this realizing is that what I gather is that with what Kresha does is he sets up scenarios with people where he's making them, I think in his mind he thinks this is competition. I'm just setting up competition. But what he's really doing is he's deceiving people, because he gives one person one story, another person another story, and then he lets them fight it out. Well, when you don't give people the full story about something, then their decisions and their actions are different. If they'd had the full story, they would be doing things differently.
That's interesting you said, because you mentioned something recently that there was something deceptive, or that appeared to be rather deceptive, in the direction of the company is maybe going to go now.
Oh, right.
Maybe you brought that
No,
home.
I did. Yep, I did. That was something that I had in my notes. So, okay, so there was one thing that where did I have that? There was one thing that Kresha had written to his business partners about how they're not going to be a web development company anymore. They're not going to be a web developer. People can use WordPress. We're not going to do social media. People can do that. We're just going to, I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but I had taken notes on it. It was something like, I've come to the conclusion that we need to stop selling websites. They are expensive to make. Everyone thinks they can build one, and no one really knows how to use them. For that matter, we need to stop selling social media. It is free. Kids can do it, and it is too expensive to keep up. From now on, the economic developers can design, host, and maintain their own websites. We are done. This was in 2014 that he wrote this. In Omaha, at the legislative conference, no one was talking about websites. Communities that understood economic growth are talking about attracting employers and employees. It is not a difficult equation. Communities need to attract companies who hire people, who in turn build houses and have kids that go to local schools, etc., etc. And companies need to hire people or they move. Legislatures get it, and they don't get it very often. But the new gap is that communities will be fighting over people soon, very soon. So we need to start selling access to the companies. We need to sell job portals. We need to sell communities. By the way, these are all items we currently offer. So how do we do this? We already have a product, Economic Gateway, but we are packaging it as a website. The name Gateway is because we are selling a solution that is a gateway to attract people into communities. We are not a website company anymore. If someone wants a website, go to WordPress. We are an opportunity company for communities. We are an expensive website, ridiculously expensive, really. We are a gateway solution to attract employees. And
Ridiculously?
He says they're ridiculously
Their
expensive.
product is ridiculously
Which it is.
expensive.
It is. It's a joke. So.
I wish we could go on and on, but we've just got a matter of seconds left. I want to thank you so much for coming, Mary. Maybe we get to see you again. And Robin, you've been just wonderful with great questions. There's so much happening underground, under the surface, that most people never see or know about. So,
In conclusion, I just want to say, I hope you get a chance to sue again.
and win. Thank you so much. I'm Teresa Scorset for Can We Talk, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks for watching.